Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince dives deeper into the darkening world of magic as Voldemort's power grows stronger and the wizarding community braces for war. Harry returns to Hogwarts for his 6th year, where he uncovers secrets about Voldemort's past and discovers an old textbook filled with mysterious notes from its former owner, the Half-Blood Prince. With Dumbledore's guidance, Harry begins a quest to understand Voldemort's weaknesses. Amid brewing dangers, friendships are tested, and a shocking betrayal changes everything, leading to a tragic climax that reshapes Harry's world forever. About the author. J.K. Rowling, a British author and philanthropist, gained worldwide fame with the Harry Potter series, which combines fantasy, adventure, and coming-of-age themes. Known for her richly imaginative storytelling and complex characters, Rowling has left a lasting mark on literature and popular culture. Beyond the wizarding world, she writes crime fiction under the pen name Robert Galbraith and is celebrated for her charitable work and contributions to literacy. The summer before Harry's 6th year at Hogwarts was unlike any other. The wizarding world was restless, whispers of dark forces growing stronger, weaving through the air. Harry had spent the holidays at the Burrow, with the Weasley family buzzing around, trying to keep spirits high even as the threat of Voldemort's return loomed larger each day. But Harry couldn't shake the unease that settled in his chest like a heavy stone. One afternoon, Harry received a surprising visit from a mysterious man named Horace Slughorn. Slughorn was a former potions professor at Hogwarts, known for his love of collecting talented students and powerful connections. After years of hiding from the world, Slughorn was coaxed back to teach, and Dumbledore wanted Harry to be part of it. Intrigued, Harry agreed, unaware how important this connection would become. At the same time, Harry found himself fascinated by an old potions textbook he discovered at Hogwarts. Unlike any ordinary book, it was filled with handwritten notes, clever spells, and warnings from someone who called themselves the Half-Blood Prince. The book transformed the sometimes dull potion-making lessons into thrilling adventures. It even taught Harry a powerful spell to protect himself in ways he'd never imagined. But who was this Half-Blood Prince? The question lingered like a whisper in the halls. Back at Hogwarts, the atmosphere was tense. Students whispered nervously about the Dark Lord's growing influence. Dumbledore's presence was steady, but heavy with unspoken worries. Harry noticed that the school felt different, darker somehow, like a storm gathering on the horizon, and lurking beneath the surface were secrets, waiting to be uncovered. These glimpses revealed a man obsessed with power, afraid of death, and desperate to split his soul into pieces, creating Horcruxes, objects that held parts of his very being to make him immortal. Understanding Horcruxes became the key to defeating Voldemort. Harry realized that the battle ahead was not just about magic and courage, but about uncovering these hidden pieces of darkness and destroying them one by one. Meanwhile, friendships blossomed amid the growing tension. Harry's bond with Ginny Weasley grew deeper, filled with shy smiles and stolen moments. Ron and Hermione, as always, were by his side, their loyalty unwavering even as their own feelings and fears tangled quietly beneath the surface. But danger was never far. The mysterious Death Eaters moved in the shadows, threatening those who dared stand against them. And the question of the Half-Blood Prince's identity began to unravel, revealing more than Harry ever expected. As the year unfolded, Harry stepped further into his destiny, learning that trust, love, and sacrifice would be the greatest magic of all. As the new school year settled in, Hogwarts seemed both familiar and strangely changed. The castle's ancient walls held countless stories, but this year some whispered of fear and uncertainty. Harry's days were filled with classes, friendships, and the ever-present shadow of what was coming. But one thing stood out above all: the return of Professor Slughorn. Slughorn was a peculiar man, with a fondness for comfort and a habit of collecting talented students into his exclusive slug club. He had a knack for remembering people's accomplishments and connections, often boasting about his famous friends. Harry found himself reluctantly swept into Slughorn's world, attending dinners and gatherings where magic mingled with subtle politics. Potions class was a highlight for Harry, especially because of the mysterious textbook he carried. The Half-Blood Prince's notes revealed clever tricks, shortcuts, and spells that made brewing potions easier and more effective. Harry felt a thrill of discovery with every lesson, though he often wondered who had owned such a book. The handwriting was elegant, but the owner's identity remained a secret. Outside the classroom, Harry's friendships deepened. Ron, always loyal and occasionally jealous, supported Harry through every challenge. Hermione, fierce and brilliant, pushed Harry to think deeply about his choices and the meaning of courage. And Jenny, once just Ron's little sister, grew into her own confident, kind, and someone Harry found himself admiring more each day. One evening, Harry's world shifted when he accompanied Dumbledore on a crucial mission. Using the pensieve, Dumbledore showed Harry more memories, glimpses of Voldemort's past that explained his dark heart and his obsession with immortality. They visited the orphanage where Tom Riddle grew up, cold and alone, and the Hogwarts classrooms where he was a gifted but troubled student. Each memory peeled back layers of the man Voldemort once was. But the most important lesson was about the Horcruxes, the hidden objects containing pieces of Voldemort's soul. Destroying them was the only way to make him mortal again. This quest, Dumbledore explained, would fall to Harry and his friends. It was a heavy burden, but one Harry was beginning to accept. Back at Hogwarts, the school buzzed with excitement for the upcoming Christmas holidays. Yet, beneath the festivities, tension simmered. Dark forces were gathering, and whispers of betrayal floated in the halls. Harry could feel eyes watching him, and he knew danger lurked closer than ever. Then came the startling discovery in the astronomy tower. Draco Malfoy, the pale, sneering Slytherin, was acting strangely reserved and secretive. Harry suspected he was up to something dark, but wasn't sure what. The mystery thickened, and Harry felt the weight of knowing that betrayal could come from within the walls he once thought safe. As winter's chill set in, Harry found warmth in moments with Jenny. Their friendship blossomed quietly, filled with gentle smiles and shy glances. Yet Harry knew there was little time for happiness. The fight against Voldemort was becoming more urgent, and the choices ahead more dangerous. In the shadows, unknown to most, the Half-Blood Prince's identity began to unravel, weaving Harry's fate closer to the secrets of the past and the storm about to break. Winter at Hogwarts wrapped the castle in a soft hush of snow, but the cold outside didn't compare to the chill settling inside Harry's thoughts. He was certain Draco Malfoy was up to something sinister. The pale, withdrawn boy who once boasted so loudly now moved through corridors like a shadow, avoiding people, often disappearing for hours. Harry's suspicions deepened. especially after he spotted Malfoy entering the room of requirement, the one room that could become anything the user needed. But what exactly was he doing in there? Harry tried to tell others, but not everyone believed him. Hermione thought he might be seeing connections where none existed, and even Ron shrugged it off. But Dumbledore didn't dismiss Harry's concerns outright. He simply encouraged him to stay focused and trust his instincts. As the holidays approached, a strange event cast a dark cloud over the joy of the season. Katie Bell, a student in Harry's year, touched a cursed necklace meant for someone else. The moment was terrifying. Katie screamed, levitated, and was rushed away by staff, barely alive. Harry was sure the attack was part of Draco's plan, but again, there was no proof. The incident sent ripples of fear through the school, and students began watching each other more closely. Then came a new clue, an old memory Dumbledore had collected, one that had been tampered with. It belonged to Professor Slughorn, and it seemed to hold the final piece of understanding about Horcruxes. But the memory had been altered, the truth replaced with a lie. Dumbledore turned to Harry and asked him to recover the real memory. It was a task that required subtlety and trust. Harry began spending more time with Slughorn, joining his slug club meetings and trying to charm the old professor. Slughorn was cheerful, even generous, but when the topic of Tom Riddle arose, his face tightened and his eyes darkened with regret. It was clear he was hiding something he wished he'd never known. Meanwhile, life at Hogwarts carried on with laughter, jealousy, and tangled teenage emotions. Ron found himself suddenly popular after joining the Quidditch team and winning a match, much to Hermione's dismay. Their friendship grew strained as Ron started dating Lavender Brown, while Hermione wrestled with feelings she couldn't quite admit aloud. In the midst of all this, Harry couldn't help the quiet feelings that had blossomed for Ginny. He watched her from a distance, noticed the way she laughed, the confidence in her spells, the fire in her spirit. But she was dating Dean Thomas, and Harry, unsure and awkward, kept his feelings hidden. One snowy evening, Harry finally succeeded in getting the truth from Slughorn. Not through trickery, but honesty. He told Slughorn about his mother, Lily, who had once been one of the professor's favorite students. He spoke of her bravery, and how the fight against Voldemort could not be won without the truth. Moved by guilt and Harry's sincerity, Slughorn handed over the real memory. In the pensieve, Harry and Dumbledore watched as the young Tom Riddle, charming and dangerous, questioned Slughorn about the possibility of splitting the soul into more than one Horcrux. Slughorn had given him the knowledge, not knowing how far Riddle would take it. He spoke of 7 pieces, 7 Horcruxes, and the horror of what that truly meant. Dumbledore was grim. He told Harry that 2 Horcruxes had already been destroyed, Tom Riddle's diary, and a ring that had cursed Dumbledore's hand. But there were more out there, still hidden, still dangerous. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but Harry now knew what must be done. Spring crept in, and with it came the feeling that time was running out. The days of classes and Quidditch were numbered. A darker adventure was drawing near. The world outside Hogwarts was changing. Attacks were increasing. Families lived in fear. And within the castle, secrets were still waiting to be revealed, some too painful to imagine. As the castle turned greener with the touch of spring, Harry carried a heavier weight in his heart. The mystery of the half-blood prince still clung to him every time he opened the old potions book. Its handwritten notes had helped him master difficult spells and outperform his classmates, but there was something strange and unsettling about the power it gave. One particular spell scribbled in the margin Sectum Sempra promised to be used for enemies. Harry didn't understand what it did, but he tucked it away in his mind, uncertain and curious. Meanwhile, his suspicion of Draco Malfoy only grew stronger. Malfoy was thinner now, his skin pale and eyes shadowed. Harry even followed him under his invisibility cloak once, and what he saw disturbed him. Draco crying in the bathroom, his face torn with stress. It was the first time Harry saw not a rival, but a frightened boy. But before he could act on it, events were spinning out of control. One day, Harry ran into Draco in that same bathroom. The confrontation turned into a duel. Wands flashed. Words were shouted. And then, without fully understanding, Harry cast Sectum Sempra. Draco crying in the bathroom, his face torn with stress. It was the first time Harry saw not a rival, but a frightened boy. But before he could act on it, events were spinning out of control. One day, Harry ran into Draco in that same bathroom. The confrontation turned into a duel. Wands flashed. Words were shouted. And then, without fully understanding, Harry cast Sectum Sempra. The spell hit Draco like a blade, cutting deep. Blood spilled across the floor as Draco collapsed in agony. Horror surged through Harry. Snape arrived swiftly and healed Draco, but the fury in his eyes was unforgettable. For using such a dangerous spell, Harry was punished detentions with Snape that filled nearly every evening. But what haunted him more was the spell itself. Who had written it? What kind of person would create magic like that? The half-blood prince's identity, once a curiosity, now felt like something far more serious. Harry hid the book away in the room of requirement, fearful of what it could do next. Through all the tension, something unexpected happened. Love bloomed in the middle of war. Jenny and Harry finally shared a kiss right in the common room after a Quidditch victory. It was sudden, electric, and natural. Their bond had been growing for months, quiet and strong, and now it found its voice. Being with Jenny made Harry feel light again, like the storm clouds above him had briefly parted. Yet the storm was far from over. Dumbledore summoned Harry one night and told him they had found another Horcrux, or so they believed. It was hidden in a distant cave, the place where Voldemort had once terrified 2 children as a boy. The journey would be dangerous, and Harry would go with him. Before they left, Harry warned his friends, especially Ron and Hermione, that something big was happening, and to stay alert. Together, Harry and Dumbledore traveled through dark skies and landed by a lonely, jagged coastline. The cave was eerie, the sea crashing outside like a warning. Inside, they followed Voldemort's clues-twisting paths, dark magic, and an underground lake filled with black, lifeless figures. At the center of the lake sat a stone basin filled with a glowing potion, beneath which lay the Horcrux. But retrieving it was not so simple. Dumbledore had to drink the potion every drop. Harry fed it to him, trembling as the potion weakened the old wizard. With each sip, Dumbledore cried out, reliving hidden horrors. Harry had never seen him so vulnerable. When the basin was empty, they retrieved the locket and prepared to flee. But the lake's silence broke. From the water rose the inferi dead bodies, summoned by dark magic. They grabbed at Harry, pulling him down, cold and endless. Then Dumbledore, weak but fierce, summoned a ring of fire, scattering the creatures. Somehow they escaped the cave, the locket secured, but Dumbledore was frail and fading. As they returned to Hogwarts, a silent warning passed between them. Something was wrong. The sky above the astronomy tower was marked by a dark mark, Voldemort's sign. Dumbledore, barely able to stand, told Harry to fetch help, but at the last second froze him under an invisibility charm. Footsteps approached. Voices echoed. Death Eaters had entered the castle, and Draco Malfoy stood before Dumbledore, his wand trembling. Harry stood frozen, hidden by Dumbledore's spell, unable to move or speak as Draco Malfoy pointed his wand at the headmaster. The boy looked terrified, pale as moonlight, his hands shaking. This was no act of bravery, it was desperation. He confessed to sneaking Death Eaters into the castle, using the vanishing cabinet, a twin of the one stored in Borgin and Burke's. For months he had been trying to repair it, and now it had worked. The castle was breached. But Dumbledore didn't show fear. He gently urged Draco to lower his wand, offering him protection, a way out, even for his family. Draco's mask began to crack. Tears glistened in his eyes. In that moment, Harry could see it. Draco wasn't a killer. He was just a boy, trapped in something far bigger than himself. Then more Death Eaters arrived, men and women cloaked in black, cruel faces twisted with triumph. Still, Draco hesitated. He couldn't bring himself to strike. And just when it seemed the standoff might end without bloodshed, Severus Snape arrived at the tower. Dumbledore looked at him with calm trust. Snape raised his wand, and in a flash of green light Dumbledore fell. He plummeted from the tower, his body motionless, vanishing from view. Time seemed to stop. The Death Eaters fled, some casting curses into the air as they escaped. Harry was released from the spell, the full horror hitting him like a wave. He ran to pursue them, his heart pounding. Chaos erupted in the halls, students and teachers fighting. Back, spells flashing like lightning. In the confusion, Harry chased Snape. He shouted, cursed, tried to stop him. But Snape blocked every spell with ease. And then, in the clearing outside the gates, Snape turned. He revealed the truth that sent Harry reeling. He was the Half-Blood Prince. And then he was gone. The night ended in silence. Dumbledore was gone. The man Harry had trusted above all others, the one who held the secrets of Voldemort's past and the fate of the Horcruxes, had been taken from them. His body lay in the white tomb built by the lake, candles floating all around, his wand resting by his side. The loss was sharp and deep, felt by everyone who had known the warmth of his presence. Hogwarts mourned. The school that had always felt like a home seemed quieter now, colder. The professors spoke in whispers. The students drifted through corridors with heavy hearts. Even the future of the school was uncertain. But Harry knew one thing with more clarity than ever before. He could not return in the fall. Dumbledore had given him a mission. It was now his alone. The locket they had retrieved turned out to be a fake. Inside was a note from someone with the initials R.A.B., claiming to have taken the real Horcrux to destroy it. The path ahead was now even more clouded, but Harry was determined to follow it. Voldemort could not be defeated unless all the Horcruxes were found and destroyed. He told Ron and Hermione of his decision not to return to Hogwarts, but to begin the hunt, and without hesitation they vowed to go with him. The journey would be long, dangerous, and far from the warmth of home, but they would face it together. Before the summer ended, Harry took one last walk with Jenny. Their time together had been short but real. He told her he couldn't risk her being a target, and though her heart was heavy, she understood. She had always been strong, and now Harry would need that strength as a memory to carry with him. The sun dipped behind the forbidden forest as the term came to a close. The castle stood tall, though dimmed, and as the train prepared to leave, Harry looked out over the grounds one last time. Ahead lay the unknown, but behind him he had found friendship, love, and the courage to face whatever came next. The boy who had once known nothing of magic had now become a young man, prepared to fight the darkest magic of all. And so, as the train pulled away from the station and the towers of Hogwarts faded into the distance, Harry sat quietly with the weight of everything that had happened. The world he knew had changed. The headmaster was gone, the enemy was rising, and the safety of school walls could no longer be counted on. But he was not alone. Beside him were two friends who had stood with him through every trial and heartbreak. Ron with his steady loyalty, and Hermione with her brilliant mind and fierce heart. They didn't know where the road ahead would lead or how long it would take, but they knew why they had to walk it. There was no more waiting, no more pretending that things would go back to how they were. The real battle was beginning, and Harry had made his choice. He would follow the trail of secrets, chase down the fragments of a soul, and prepare to face the greatest darkness the world had ever known. And through it all he would carry the lessons Dumbledore left behind about love, sacrifice, and the power of hope. ... For now the story pauses, but the journey is far from over. The final chapter still awaits. Good night.